Well, good evening, everybody. This is going to be kind of a different video, and I don't know how long I'm going to be able to stare into the sun. But Greg and I are in Haines Junction, Canada, and tomorrow we'll be going down the 37, which is known as the Cassier-Stewart Highway, I think, or the Cassier Highway. We fell short at Toke this morning, last night rather, and we stayed in Delta Junction. Delta Junction is actually the terminal point of the Alcan Highway. Now, we filmed Delta Junction when we were on our inbound trip on the Alaskan Canadian Highway. You can see in the background, and I'm not going to talk about it much. And those that have been following me are probably saying, "Oh, he really hasn't talked much about the Honda Trans Alp that he got," which is right here. I took all the gear off. All this stuff is inside our little motel room right there. Wow, that sun setting is blinding me in the eyes. But there's the Trans Alp. Now, the panniers, if you guys are wondering about, wow, where's all that other gear at? Well, the dealership is actually shipping it to my in-laws house in Auburn, Washington, which I'll be staying at a couple of days upon the return. And all that gear, all that stuff that was on the bike, I just have the essentials with me. So they have like a lot of my, not just a lot, they have all my camping gear, all my sleeping bag, my tent. I think I left them maybe some, some accessory stuff. So it came up to $340 for these 3 big heavy boxes. Oh, and then my panniers. So if you notice, my panniers are gone, and there was some other equipment off that KLR. We were stripping down the KLR as much as we could, and we put it in these boxes. So a lot of it might be some extraneous parts. Now, accessories that were added on that can go on this bike. Any of the additional residual KLR parts that I had, such as, and that's what kind of made some of the decision-making process, was a lot of stuff I was carrying and loading up was specific tools and, cables and brake pads, sprockets, chains. I was like a mobile motorcycle shop myself. So a lot of that didn't come with me. But I want to talk about some aspect of how I make this decision and how we make decisions, and maybe there's always better decisions to make. This trip has cost me more money than planned, but I've come to the conclusion that, honestly, had I not purchased this new motorcycle, it could have cost me a lot more in different ways. And Greg and I were talking that it was like that analogy when you see that guy on the house, and there's a flood, and God comes and he goes, "Hey, I'll save you." And he said, "Oh no, I'm sorry, it's the other way around." A guy in a boat comes, "Hey, yeah, jump in the boat, there's a flood." He goes, "Oh no, God's going to take care of me." And then the helicopter comes in, "Oh no, God's going to take care of me." And something else happens, and eventually the guy drowns and dies and goes to heaven. He goes, "Man, I thought you said you were going to, I prayed and prayed and prayed. I thought you were going to take care of me." He goes, "What do you want from me? I sent you a boat, a helicopter, whatever." So the point being is that since I started this route, and I look back in 2018 when I did the round trip, Route 66, and at that point, I'd have been riding motorcycles for like a year or two. I didn't even know how to change oil, honestly. Maybe at the most. And that bike made it to Santa Monica, Chicago and back. It was a solo trip that I made. Now, of course, on Route 66, we're on pavement and doing different things. You're on pavement. You have a gas station. You have machine shops all over the place. So it's very easy and very safe, a safe environment. But one thing about doing this, and I will say that, I have to be real with myself before I'm real with anybody else and say, I was very staunch on saying earlier videos that the right person on the right bike can do this trip. The right person on a KLR, a 17-year-old KLR 650 can do this trip. Well, I got it up here, but I underestimated my own capabilities and what I know what to do as far as maintenance and repairs. I underestimated the potentiality or the viability of a 17-year-old motorcycle. I'm sorry, say that backwards. I overestimated my capabilities and technical expertise. I overestimated that. I overestimated the KLR's capabilities being 17 years old and already having some troubles before we left. I overestimated that. I underestimated the route. I underestimated the weather, the roads, the isolation and desolate roads that we were on. I underestimated that. I underestimated road conditions. And it ended up just being a recipe for, I don't want to say disaster, because it didn't get as bad as it could have been, but it ended up being a recipe for change. Now, if I was writing, I want to say a thesis, or a hypothesis rather. If I was writing a hypothesis, my hypothesis is, say, a lot of motorcycles. This is the Alcan that I'm on right now, actually, the Alaskan Canadian Highway. We're spending the night. But if my hypothesis was something to the effect, oh, these bugs. If my hypothesis was something to the effect of the right person with the right machine, the right know-how can do this trip, I would say, okay, I got the hypothesis down, my theory, this plus this equals this. And then I go through and I gather historical data about the machine, the motorcycle, historical data about the operator, maintainer, that would be me. I'm going to try to get that pole right where the sun is blocking it. And I get historical data about the route, the road, the conditions, and see what other people have experienced. And I thought I did that to a good degree. So I apply all that theoretically or academically, and then with that information, I apply it practically. Now, the practical application of it involved the reality of me on that motorcycle on these roads. Not so much Canada, but in Alaska, especially the Dalton. And if I was concluding this, my conclusion would be my hypothesis was wrong. And it could be wrong because of the lack of proper data gathering, or the misunderstanding of the, God, this is getting terrible, my hand's blocking the camera. The lack of my own knowledge, my own capabilities, or realizing my own capabilities, strengths, weaknesses, and limitations, and according to the bike also. So had this been that type of scientific thing, it would have ended up with, hey, I had a hypothesis, and guess what? It doesn't work out that way. And it didn't. One of the things that we also have realized, Greg and I, is that you guys see these beautiful mountains in the background. I mean, this is just, I got to put I did some great helmet cam stuff I got to put on after this video. But one thing that we realized too is, when I was giving you that analogy of the guy on the boat, I'm sorry, the guy in the house saying, hey, God, I asked for your help, is that we've had a number of issues from only being 250 miles out when I had the crankcase and I did the JB Weld thing. That was earlier on. We had the crankcase, we had the speedometer cable come off, we had the brake caliper come off, the front brake caliper got loose. What else did we have? We had the battery issue. Then we had this flat. Now, the thing about this flat, then after the flat, when we got to the shop, it turned out, and I had the front and rear sprocket and chain, but things just seemed to be cascading. Now, here's the thing. That tire that was a manufacturer's defect, that had nothing to do with the KLR or me, that tire could have blown anywhere from the very next day. We were on the Dalton, the most treacherous part of this whole trip. We were on the Dalton, and it held together for 500 miles. We go all the way up to the Dalton, turn around, come back to Fairbanks, then Fairbanks go down to Denali National Park, backtrack up to Fairbanks because the weather was bad, and as soon as I pull into the hotel, the tire goes flat. Right across the street, literally. I think in my video, I can show you the rooftop of the motorcycle shop that put the tire in. And so I have AAA. The unfortunate part was that it was, the next day was Monday, which the motorcycle shop was closed. But it goes flat, and the weather was terrible. When you're coming back from Denali, if you've been in this area, when you come Denali to Fairbanks, you climb up a hill, a mountain, you get some altitude, and it was wet and drizzly. I mean, if my back tire would have blown out 5 minutes earlier before pulling into the hotel, I would have been having a different conversation. I probably would have went down with the weight on the bike, blowing out blowing out a tire at highway speeds in the wet rain, and the visibility was shot because of the fog. Even on the best of days, if I would have been able to control the bike and come to a complete stop, come to a complete stop. Who are we call? We're calling AAA, right? But we're going to be there in torrential rain, getting soaked, waiting for AAA to come. But no, it decides to go flat right in front of literally our hotel. It couldn't have been a better scenario. We go right into the room. We just bagged up everything for the night. This is the most mosquitoes. I am not kidding you. This is the most mosquitoes I've encountered this whole trip. So, but it does that. And then, so we bring it in on Tuesday when everything else kind of is. We bring it in on Tuesday. In between this time, by the way, when you see the wash racks and we're spraying all the mud off from the Denali, right after that, the upper casing of the engine starts leaking oil, and I'm burning a quart of oil or spilling out a quart of oil, at least half a quart every hour. I mean, I'm sorry, every 100 miles, I'm losing at least a half a quart. And for that motorcycle, quarts of oil run between, $7 and $10, whatever. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, we got to know I paid for this, but now we're going to be dumping oil to get back to California. So Greg and I are both confident that with the right tire and getting the sprocket and everything tied in there, that the oil issue, we can limp the bike back to California, at least to Washington State, where I'm at my in-laws' house. And then at that point, determine if I'm just going to leave it there and fly home or what. And then I consider, well, if I get to Washington State and I'm a Washington State resident, maybe, mosquitoes. I'm a Washington State resident. Maybe I'll get a Transalp in Washington. So I called like 3 dealers in Washington. And all of them said, well, we've had them, but we can't keep them in stock. Something flying over my head. We have them, but we can't keep them in stock, and they're back ordered. I'm like, well, the only bike, I don't want to go with another KLR, but the only thing that ever piqued my interest was the Transalps. The sun's down now, so I can turn around. So we go to the dealership to get the tire fixed, and there's 2 Transalps. Obviously, I bought one. There's 2 Transalps sitting there. And when the tow truck driver picked me up, and I just had to move it about maybe a mile on the other side of the road from the motel to the dealership to get it fixed, the driver was telling me that, and I think I mentioned this in another video, that when you go up to the Denali, Living Good is the last place AAA, and I'm a AAA member. They go, but most of the time, if you don't have AAA, you're looking at anywhere between $2,000 to $6,000. $2,000 to $6,000. People have left their bikes out there. That KLR cost me $1,800, $1,800. I was not going to pay. And this is how it would work with AAA. That wherever you're north of Living Good, you would basically, if you're on the Dalton, and you need a tow, AAA will come get you, or a tow truck will come get you. But you're paying up front. AAA is not going to get involved at this point if you're on the Dalton, which is all unimproved road. And there's the big sign there, Dalton, pavement literally ends, and it's just mud and marsh after that. So what happens is you pay out of pocket anywhere between $2,000 to $6,000, depending on how deep you're in. And then you appeal to AAA and say, hey, I paid this amount of money. How much were you willing to reimburse? Enjoy the sunset behind me. How much are you willing to reimburse from Living Good into Fairbanks? And then that's up to you in AAA. And if you don't have AAA, or you don't have any kind of towing package, you're going to be out some serious cash. So hearing that story, looking at my oil leak, looking at that we were going down the Cassiar Highway, which we're almost there now, even repeating the Alcan, the Alaskan Canadian Highway that we just came in on, there's a lot of desolate areas. And I'm thinking to myself, every time we've had a breakdown, every time we've had an anomaly where we had to, think outside the box or get it fixed, we've been in a great location. It's been dry. When we were in Southern California in the hot heat, we were under shade. When the caliper went out, we were by a gas station. When the tire blew, all these places were things in this environment. In Alaska and in Canada, most of the time, these things can happen at any time. You're in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if a tow truck's going to come get us. So I started thinking, it's one thing to jeopardize my time and my own well-being, trying to myself, but now I'm implicating Greg. And not only that, what happens, call my wife and say, hey, I'm in the middle of nowhere and AAA's not coming to get me, and I'm in a foreign country. I'm in Canada. So I will say this, if anyone's watching or have been watching these videos of mine And, you know, because my attempt to get to Dead Horse, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a motorcycle rider and you're thinking about this, you need to think about all of it. You need to put yourself in the worst case scenario. And some people do put themselves, you know, think about the worst case scenario, which is basically money and time. And guess what? They have the money and time. They have it. And if it's going to be, if you budget this down to time and money, down to a couple of days and a couple of $100, this isn't the ride for you at any point in time. Weather can change at a moment's notice. So when you thought you weren't going to pay for hotels, you're going to find yourself in a hotel room. Issues with fixing things get expensive. That's another thing too. Once you get to Alaska, or even through here, through Canada, it's not like Southern California where every couple of miles there's a motorcycle shop and happens to have your part. I've been there where motorcycle shops have had my parts, but it's not like it up here. And if they do have the part, usually someone's buying it before you got there. Especially in the height of the motorcycle Dalton excursion season, which we're on the tail end of that. So, I miss the KLR. I'm enjoying this bike. I'll talk more about this bike later in a different video, because I try to keep my videos under 15 minutes. Now this is 16. I did want to say, hello to Greg's sister Stacy, who is on her way to Alaska, but she played it smart. These things are the size of birds, these mosquitoes. But Stacy's on the way to Alaska, but she played it smart because she's taking a cruise. So good on you, Stacy. That's maybe what Greg and I should have done. And then my last thought I wanted to say though was it was a little bit of a bite in the butt, being that I was putting money in repairs on that KLR and thinking, well, all for naught because I don't have the KLR anymore. They gave me like $500 credit towards the new bike for that. The expense of that, of the repairs and the parts that I carried, I'm paying $340 to have all my other equipment sent back down to Auburn. So that stings a little bit, but then we went to go fill up our motorcycles, and while we're filling up our motorcycles this morning, leaving Delta Junction, a flatbed trailer comes in with a motorcycle on it. Very similar flatbed trailer that had mine, if you saw that video or picture. But this motorcycle, it looked like a Honda Goldwing. Look, one of those big, not cruising bikes, touring bikes, big. You know, where the passenger in the back seat has their own lounge chairs and entertainment system and coffee holder. One of those big ones. And the whole left side was just wiped out. And I'm looking at it, and if I was more in the moment, I guess, or maybe I was too much in the moment, I would have grabbed my phone and taken a picture of it. Because when I saw that bike and it was basically destroyed, and this is a cruiser bike, it's not an adventure bike like ours, I thought to myself, you know, all the time, God has sent me a message. God has sent me a message of, hey, you know, you've done what you could with the KLR. You are not the most capable rider and mechanic and maintainer to bring a 17-year-old Kawasaki KLR 650, you know, 3,000 to 4,000 miles one way and then back again. You are not that person to do that with that bike. And I'm trying to give you a hint here. So once I took those hints and said, okay, you know something, the money I had put into it at this point is just going to be a loss, because this can be exponentially thousands upon, not just hundreds, but thousands upon thousands of dollars. If number one, I just get isolated somewhere with a breakdown on a good day, or something happens while I'm in motion and the breakdown and an injury occurs. And I was looking at that motorcycle and that flatbed, and I just thought, and I'm on the Honda, I'm on the Transalp at this point, and I saw that and I just thought, that was the final message saying, this is what I was trying to have you avoid, and you finally listened to me. This would have been your, jeez. Boy, and they're bold. These mosquitoes are bold. I'm swatting at them, just like, nope. They're coming to landing on me like I'm an aircraft carrier. There goes another one. But, what was I going to say? But yeah, I saw that. I saw that wrecked motorcycle on the back of that flatbed this morning. I wish I would have taken a picture of it so I can show you guys. But, you know, I know you can imagine in your mind, and I know a lot of you have seen these accidents. The whole left side was just wiped out, and I thought, was there a passenger on that? Are they in the hospital? Did they make it? Did they get injured? Where are they? I wanted to see the license plate. I wanted to see what state it was from. I didn't get to. But most motorcycles that we're seeing up here, they're not from Alaska. They're from the lower 48. Literally. I will say it this way. Every single motorcycle that I saw was from the lower 48. That I saw on this trip. I didn't get to see his license plate. But can you imagine, and I can because I'm kind of living it, that the idea of having that happen to you, or the idea of you having that happen to a loved one. What if that was me and my family was back down, you know, wondering if I was okay. I think right now I'm having more, oh geez. Okay, you know something, I'm gonna wrap this up because I am being attacked. Let me pause it. I'm gonna finish this up in the room. There's too many mosquitoes out here. So I got in the room. I mean, I wanted you guys to, I was walking around because I wanted you guys to see the Africa Twin and the Trans Alp out there. But as I'm walking, I'm trying to avoid the mosquitoes, so that was irrelevant. But now I'm in the room. And the other thing I was going to say is that I had a friend this week pass away. His name was Bob Carroll, close friend from high school. And he was a motorcycle enthusiast. Unfortunately, I think a year or two after high school, on his motorcycle at a very low speed, intersection Surface Street, I think it was like a T-bone into another car, and he had his girlfriend on the back. They both get ejected, and he ends up paralyzed from the waist down for his entire adult life. And I got to tell you, Bob was a great guy. He's the type of guy that would make you feel like you're the most important person in the room, with a room full of people. And then he'd go into another conversation, and he'd seek somebody out and make him feel like they're the most important person in the room. Always put himself aside. What we all saw as friends as a tragedy, you would never get that sense from Bob, you know, living his life in a wheelchair. But I got a text message a day or two from him while I'm on this trip, right before he passed away, and it was just, you know, hey man, I'm so glad you're out there enjoying it. He was very supportive, very positive about me being on a motorcycle, regardless of what his individual personal experience was. So he was on my mind too, and I just thought, you know, I got to play it safe, not only for myself, but for the other people that care about me, for the people that are involved. And this was the best route to go. And the overall pricing of the motorcycle really wasn't that much impact to my financial situation on a monthly basis. It really wasn't. I thought it would be. It's really not. It's not that expensive of a motorcycle for payments. And I was getting all wrapped up into the expense of what I had put in the bike. And then it kind of slows me down when I think of Bob. Slows me down when I think about that motorcycle that was on that trailer. That could have been my destiny. After all those signs and signals and all the convenient times the bike broke down, and knowing what we still had to do to accomplish to get back to Washington State at least, I knew that the next breakdown was either going to leave us stranded in the middle of nowhere, so I can learn my lesson, or it was going to cause me to go down where then Greg would have to not only deal with the wrecked motorcycle, but deal with me getting into a hospital of some kind. Because that blowout on that hill on that rainy day wouldn't have been pretty. It wouldn't have been pretty at all. So I don't want to say it was a spontaneous. The thing about it, though, and I'll finish with this, is that the Transalp was the only motorcycle that really caught my eye other than the KLR. Washington State couldn't keep them in stock. And the people that were trying to fix my motorcycle at that location had two on their showroom floor. How much shining light. Hey, your motorcycle's been breaking down. I've been telling you. There's two of the ones that you've been looking for right here. Washington State doesn't have any. And by the way, Fairbanks, Alaska doesn't charge tax on it. So I have to worry about the tax conversion with Washington. If I had not done that, I think all the signs were pretty indicative that I did make the right move. So anyways, I just wanted to give you a little bit of philosophy on that, on, you know, going in, and I'll be the first to admit that as much as I was so adamant on proving to myself, not to everybody else, that I was the person that had enough knowledge and experience with this 17-year-old motorcycle that I was going to bring it up to the Dalton and back down to California successfully, you know, and you know, incorporating some of the, I knew it was going to have some mechanical issues, but I was going to rectify that. Thinking that I was the person to do that with that type of bike was not the right equation, did not give me the results I was looking for. I'm more of a person now. Hey, I'm happy I've had the experience. I've learned a lot about motorcycling myself, mechanics behind motorcycles, how they work. But me, myself, I'm happy on the 750 that I can pay attention to. And there was one other thing Greg mentioned, and he said, and I'm not going to say, I can't quote him directly, but it was the effect of saying, you know, it's one thing to have that challenge and put yourself up to that, but it's another thing to say, it's going to start taking away from your trip. Because then all you're wrapped up in thinking is keeping that motorcycle in motion, maintaining it, and you're missing out on what you came on this trip for. you came on this trip to enjoy, enjoy the ride, enjoy the views, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the motion of movie. You didn't come on this trip to, once a day work and fix something. I mean, if it happens once a week on a trip, okay, that's fine. But it was turning into that every day we had to pay attention to the KLR, and it was distracting from the trip. And so at that point, you're thinking, what point am I trying to prove to myself or anybody else? Well, this has one been a long one. It's 25 minutes. I hope, some of you guys enjoy my rant. I'm going to put some really, really cool helmet cam scenery videos on after this, but I haven't really caught up with anybody for a while. We've been really, really busy yesterday trying to figure out what we're going to do with the KLR. Then I went to the process of buying the Honda Transalp, and then we got late getting out of there. We had a very, very cold night getting into Delta Junction. Today was a great ride, 7 hours of travel time. I think it was about maybe a 10-hour day total, and then we're in for the same thing tomorrow. We're going to end up in Jade City on Highway 37. I think we're going to be in British Columbia by then. All right, good night, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Have fun in Alaska, Stacy. And God bless you, Bob, up in heaven, for maybe you were that also the angel on my shoulder saying, hey, you did a good job on the KLR. Move
on.
Everyone's, Greg just said, move on. But hey, you did a great job on the KLR. We all got the point. Get yourself a new motorcycle. Like, subscribe, get out there and ride wherever your passion is. Don't wait till tomorrow, because if you didn't do it yesterday, start getting her done today. Good night.